So I hope you all are ready, because tonight we are very, very fortunate with a special man sitting right down here. It is Nick the Stich from UK London. Whoop, whoop. But first, his introducee is going to be Monica. So give her a round of applause. There she is.
Oh, lots of lights here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Monica. I'm an addict. Very grateful to be part of this wonderful fellowship and to see that we managed it again. You know, another convention with a huge turnout and international people, really wonderful. And Nick, I'm so honored that you asked me to introduce you, because you really meant so much for our fellowship, but also to me personally. You are totally service, but some people are only service and they don't have sponsees and they don't have a sponsor, but you do everything. You have every part of recovery covered, and you are always there for us. You are one of the people that were very helpful when we started CA here, and we often didn't know how to do H&I, what PI was, what an area was. All these area petition things, we had no clue. And you and also Jackie were really always there to help, to explain again, because it didn't make sense to us. You know, and we are really on your shoulders, and it is so wonderful to have footsteps before you, and not just someone who says, follow me, but you could always, you were always willing to answer questions. You would answer the phone, you would answer emails, you would come to speak, come to support. And it's really been a great help. And so CA-HOLLAND owes you a whole lot. And people who know Nick and have met Nick here know he's really a good talker. You know, he has no problem talking. But not all of you know that he's also a very good listener. I had an issue in the area level, a whole complicated thing, and Nick was talking, and I'm a little bit introvert, so I always wait till the other person gets silent, and then I think I'm going to say my thing, but it didn't happen. So I thought, okay, Nick, I said, you need to be silent for a little while, because I want to tell you something and I think it's important. And then, okay, he said, okay, I'm doing that. And I could really tell you the whole story, and it was a little bit of sort of criticism maybe, but you were totally, I saw in your head like, what's she saying, what does it mean? And then I saw that you got the message. And that was really very meaningful, because you were really the only person I could discuss that with. And it's really such a, you know, some people do service and they start to tell people, you know, do this, do that, or you can't do this, and that is not allowed. And you are really the kind of leader that is a leader in a way that you really want to follow. And that is, I think, how Bill W. meant it. So a big welcome for Nick.
I learned that people will wait. So I'm Nick the Stich, and I'm a cocaine addict. I did other stuff, but cocaine was my favorite. And I love Monica. So just in case you don't remember, the first meeting of Cocaine Anonymous in this country was in Monica's flat. Philip was there. I think Edward might have been there. Jackie was there. And they started it. And that is the reason you're here. No other fucking reason. So they created somewhere for you to come to. And that was my experience, that Cocaine Anonymous was waiting for me. I didn't get here straight away. But before I launch into it, I'd just like us all to be silent for a minute for Jackie S., for Edward, and all of those who can't be here today because they've passed. This stuff kills people. This is the moment when people start vibrating and think, oh, please start speaking, it's uncomfortable. I love going up to newcomers and hugging them for at least 2 minutes. They are terrified. That was done to me. Anyway, start at the beginning, said Alice. Keep going, and when you come to the end, stop. So I'll start at the beginning. That was Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. It was one of my favourite books, just behind Winnie the Pooh. And you might think, what's that got to do with cocaine addiction? Quite a lot, actually. Alice followed instructions, and that's what I do. That's all I've done, follow instructions. So I didn't hear all the speakers. I did hear Lucy this afternoon. I was very moved. I've known Lucy a long, long time. She gets invited to tea at my house for cucumber sandwiches, and we chat nonsense. It's great. One of the thing about being sober is you can chat nonsense, so it doesn't matter, and no one criticises you, and because our job is to talk nonsense, and this is good practice. So when newcomers come and talk to you, and their job is to talk nonsense, to already practice talking nonsense and listening to nonsense. And again, that's from Alice in Wonderland. You know, it is my job to listen to people who are absolutely lying and be interested. So Jackie S. taught me this trick. So they come in and they go, Nicholas, I've got something to talk to you. And this happened when I was a trustee and a delegate. I will tell you how I got it. I go very roundabout. So I go, really, Robin? That's fantastic. And they've been going for 10 minutes, you know, something really important. And towards the end, they've completely forgotten what they're talking about, but they insist in keeping talking. You go, well, Robin, tell me more. And they go, and they're not quite sure. And they go, well, that was fantastic. I've just seen my wife. I've just got to go for a cup of tea. And then 2 weeks later in the meeting, they go, oh, I had a lovely chat with Nicholas. No, they talked a lot. I ignored them and went and had a cup of tea with my wife. But apparently it works for them. Definitely works for me. You know, and I've cultivated this face that looks like I'm interested. I had this sponsor, and he said, Nicholas, are you still speaking under the delusion that I'm either interested or even listening? And he was right, you see. I had to learn to be quiet. When I went to my dealer, if I kept talking, he'd go, I've just had a hit, shut the fuck up, I'm busy, wait. Do you remember? Oh, did you have lovely dealers? Hello, Nicholas. Tea, coffee, caviar, vodka? How are you? Mine would threaten violence. And I always reminded him I was left-handed, and I so, please don't break my left hand. It's all right to break my right hand. Imagine that, I'm negotiating with the dealer which hand to break. There's insanity, there's step 2, right there. 1 and 2, unmanageable, completely insane. So, you know, your mum phones you, how are you doing? Well, I've been negotiating with this 6-foot guy who's got a baseball bat not to break my left hand. Apart from that, it's been fabulous. Been taking cocaine, chasing women I'm not supposed to, you know, driving cars. One of my first spiritual experiences was driving a car, which I owned. Nothing to do with God. It was just like, oh, and it's like when you get your first key to a flat and you've paid rent. You think, oh, this is fun. I pay this and I actually live here. You know, and so I don't have to tell you I stole cars, because you know I stole cars, because I just told you a spiritual experience was driving a car that I didn't own. Or did own, even. So I'd like to say my life was terrible when I was a kid. It wasn't. It was difficult. So my father had nephritis at 19. That's failure of the kidneys. So basically, he bought a ship, a ticket for the ship Titanic. And the only way you're going is if you've got a ticket on the Titanic is down. And then he got several forms of cancer, and he got Crohn's disease. He had ECT, electric shock treatment. And I always wanted to know what that was. So no one would tell me. So I used to wet my hand, walk over to an electricity socket and plug myself in. And I thought, that is not very nice. And they're doing that to my dad. Now, I don't know, it made me a drug addict, but it definitely made me a bit weird. Because I used to tell kids at school, and people would come with straitjackets and take me off places. You know, I mentioned suicide about 10 years ago, and 2 policemen and an ambulance turned up, and that was sober. People take you serious when you start talking about that, but no one took me seriously. And he died. And I'd already started drinking. I took Jimi Hendrix acid tabs, 2 on the tongue. I remember nothing about that funeral at all. And I wore a pink knitted waistcoat. It was the 60s. And emotionally, I couldn't cope. I couldn't cope. I didn't know what to do. And I go to school and meet people, and my nickname was Bastard, because no one had ever seen my dad. So I took drugs and drink, because I couldn't cope. I didn't know how to cope. And I'd skip school, and they'd go, if you keep skipping school, you'll end up nowhere. Well, he's wrong, because I'm here at a convention, but we all make mistakes. Someone tried to teach me to swim when I was 12 and threw me in. At age 17, I picked up a javelin and threw it at him. The good news is I missed. My mother had to beg, because they were going to do me for attempted manslaughter. I was disturbed. I was definitely disturbed. You know, normal people do not go around throwing javelins at people. By this time, I was on DF-118s, so they're black bombers, they're speed, because I like going fast. And we used to buy a magazine called Oz that was written by a mad Australian, and it had Rupert the Bear on, and it had a 2-page full disclosure on how to take cocaine properly. You have to wash your nose before, and all the instructions. And I couldn't wait to try cocaine. Like, you could ask most kids, and they've either started when they're 12 nowadays because it's new, but then cocaine was expensive. It was about 90 euros a packet. It wasn't cheap, and it was quite good. And I spent from 16 to 22 looking for cocaine. It was like, get up, look for cocaine. So I was on the way. I remember my first sponsor, Billy, who died in COVID. And he said, what took you so long? I said, pardon? He said, well, I've been waiting here. I'm 12 years sober. Where you been? I said, how do you know I was coming? He said, well, you're here. He said, my job is to wait. And if I help you, you must wait too. I said, who for? He said, I don't know, but they're on their way. I knew you were coming. He said, they are legion. He said, I know you're clever. Your mother and father are teachers, you told me. And that's one of the main things I try and help with people now. It's waiting for people. I met this man called George, and I went to AA first. So I got struck sober on the 8th of July, 1992, which makes me 30 years, 8 days today. I was thinking of a dear man called Mark Houston, who I met, who regularly says on CDs, you know, I didn't come all this way to talk about the steps, so I'm not going to talk about the steps. I will tell you I've done them, but I'm going to give you more practical stuff. So I met this guy, Billy, and he said, I've been watching you for a week. And I don't know about you, but if I take lots of cocaine, I get really paranoid. And even when I stop, I'm still a bit paranoid. And I thought, what? You're watching me? What the fuck are you doing? He said, I've been watching you. He said, you're stealing our biscuits, drinking our tea, looking at our women, and you're not doing any step work at all. This is not how it works. I want you to sit at the front, keep your mouth shut, and say nothing. You might learn some shit. I went, how long have you been watching? He said, from the day you came in, I can see you're in trouble, and you're trouble. He said, you've been hiding at the back. He said, what do you mean I've been hiding at the back? He said, I've seen you. You're at the back where the lights are. He said, but you're screwed. He said, because we've got a set of newcomer lights and we can see when you're new. And he went, I said, newcomer lights? So I turned round. I said, I can't see any lights. He said, well, of course you can't see any lights because you're fucking new. And that was the end of that. And it was just, he's brilliant. Whatever I said, he had an answer. And he'd quote the book at me, but he didn't say it was from the book. He'd just come up and go, easy does it, and just wander off. Just wander off. And I think, what the fuck does that mean? So I go home and read the book until I found it. I thought, you clever bastard. He had me reading the book without telling me to read the book. Sponsors are like that, you know. So I tell people not to do anything, and then they do it just to spite me. I think, result. Because we're like that. You know, stamping your feet and saying no. I couldn't get some food. I don't eat croquettes. Monica will give you the long story. I don't eat croquettes and I don't eat canned soup. So I said to this man, can you help me? And he just walked off. Anyway, at this point, I started getting agitated. So I'm hungry, agitated, and a bit tired. So I said, well, they're eating other stuff. You see, I'm like a Rottweiler, but I'm Rottweiler plus. Rottweilers will eventually let go. I won't. I said, where do you get that food? I said, is there another special kitchen for special people? He went, well, there's an a la carte menu. I said, so why can't I have a la carte? Anyway, nothing happened. So I went and saw the assistant manager. See, sober, you can confront someone. So when your sponsor confronts you, it comes from a Latin, confrontare. It means to ask with love what the fuck you're doing. So I said to the assistant manager, I'm being treated not very well. Can you find me some food? Martin was there. I said, Martin, where do I get food? Everyone's going, well, yes, nobody give me any food. Anyway, eventually I got some food, and the assistant manager brought me, personally, bowed and apologised. Didn't give me a bill. But because I'm sober, I went and found him, bowed back, asked him how much you want, and I've just paid the bill. Because that's what sober people do. You don't think, oh, I flew all the way to Amsterdam to get a free meal. You just think, I've had a meal, I didn't cook it, I didn't pay for it, I should pay for it. And I was taught that early. So Billy took me somewhere, and he said, right, we're going on a train journey, and we're going here, and I hear a bald man's doing the chair. I've been conned again. And nobody checked the tickets. So I said, well, we didn't have to pay a ticket. He said, stop right there. That's alcoholic thinking. If no one ever paid any ticket, we wouldn't have any fucking trains. Pay the ticket, whether anyone's watching or not, because God sees all, and he sees your ass, because it's sorry. And I like that. I'm a sorry-ass cocaine addict. Anyway, I started making the tea. Oh, by the way, I was living with a using heroin addict for my first 3 years of recovery, because easier, softer ways for winter, you know. I just thought, live with a using heroin addict, it'll make it interesting, challenging. We can see if these steps work. And they do, because I'm here and she's still using. And I used to go home and I said, I'd like a party. So about 50 alcoholics and drug addicts came to the house, didn't get drunk, washed up, left the house tidier than it was. And she said, oh, have another party. They're welcome anytime, you know. It's a bit of a mess if you've been smacking up, you know. And joking aside, she went, they really like you, don't they? They're really nice people. I wish I wanted to stop, but I don't. And there are some people in this room who don't want to stop. They're here for some sort of party. But that's okay. You know? I used to take heroin and pull my teeth out with pliers for something to do. And in sobriety, I've paid lots of dentists, lots of money, but put them all back in. So life is circular. You know, and I've got great teeth. For someone who's 68, I'm doing all right. You know what I mean? And that is, again, because I'm sober. So Billy said, I think you should make tea. You should come for an interview. I said, pardon? He said, interview. He said, I'm Scottish. I can't drink English tea. You will make tea like this. You will get a big teapot. You will put 30 bags in it. And you will time half an hour before the meeting, you will turn up. 3 of us will come along and test the tea. And if it isn't any good, you're not making tea. He said, because strong tea can be made weak, but weak tea can't be made strong. And he said, I'm fucking sober and I'm sponsoring you. You're not sponsoring me. Arrive. Anyway, I arrived there half an hour, set all the tea up, got all the cups, put them in alphabetical order. They almost had names on, but I thought it was going a bit too far. And they didn't come for half an hour. I said, where you been? They said, well, we just want to see if you're willing. Old school willingness. It's a bit like the man on the Niagara Falls. Old school AA joke. So, sponsor takes a sponsee to Niagara Falls, and there's a man in a barrel, and he's going to walk across the Niagara Falls, a rope, with a bar. And he said, what do you reckon? He said, that is a man who believes. So he says to the sponsee, do you believe? He said, I believe. He says, that's fantastic. He said, go and ask him if you can have a piggyback, and he'll take you across. He said, fuck that. He said, well, that's called faith, and that's what you need. Belief is easy. You have to have faith that God is going to help you, not belief, faith that is going to happen when it gets bad, when it gets good. You see, I never learn anything when it's going well. When I've got a car outside and a woman there and money, and you've heard it from Lucy, and her version was looking for men, you know, I've only learnt when they've walked away. I used to go out with this artist called Mary, and she met my mother, and he said, he lies, he exaggerates, and I don't know what the fuck's wrong with him. And do you know what? She didn't, and nor did I, and nor did my mother. But apparently, I was a cocaine addict, and I was suffering from a spiritual malady. But you don't know that when you're 15, do you? You just think, well, Mary's a bit of a cow anyway, I didn't want to sleep with her. Because I'm self-centered. I think about me, I don't think about her. I never wake up sober and think how everyone else is. I think, yeah, well, it's bollock, yeah, I'm all right. And then I think about other people. I still think about myself. This is a self-centered disease. I got a lovely friend, and his granddad built the Channel Tunnel. He has wealth. I don't know about you. If I have a bad day, I have a bar of chocolate, it changes the colour of his Porsche. Do you know what I mean? He's got that sort of money. And he said, it's not that I wake up and I think greatly of myself, or that I wake up and I think less of myself. It's just that I think of myself all the time. And you could put that in the big book. It would make sense. It would make sense. You know, I never wake up and think, how are you doing in Germany? I think, Germany, yeah, right. I'm worried about what I'm going to do, when I'm going to eat. Who knows? But in recovery now, I have learned to change that. You know, this is about love and service. Jackie was just fantastic on love and service. She'd come up to you and say, Nicholas, she said, so nice that you're going to be the convention treasurer. We had no discussion about this. So it was just like, basically, you are going to be the convention treasurer, and I'm just informing you. So it was no good praying to God. You just asked Jackie, and she'd tell you what you were doing. And but she didn't come across like that. She just said it's love and service and love and service. She was about that big. And she could stop an entire convention. She was a thunder out. She was just fantastic. And she was the first person that I ever met to CA. So I didn't leave Billy. I started talking about drugs. And I went to this AA meeting, and someone said, would you like to share? And it was on me. So I talked about crack for 45 minutes. Apparently there were 4 people left in the meeting when I'd stopped, because I'd forgotten it was Alcoholics Anonymous. And one of them was a lady called Amanda, and she said, you should come and meet my friend Jackie. You'll be doing the chair tomorrow. So I didn't come to CA as a new person. I came as 2 years sober. And Jackie was waiting for me at the bottom stairs, because she'd met the same bloke. She was waiting. She said, oh, hello. How are you? I said, I don't know. She said, correct answer. Because if you don't, you've been thinking about yourself too much. Do you take cocaine? I said, as much as I can get. She said, that's fantastic, so do I. Let's go and have a cup of tea. And we became friends for life, because we've got this thing. We've got the similar solution. We want to be able to stop taking cocaine. And basically, I just started at the beginning. I did the Alice. So I made tea. So I don't know about your meetings. Our meeting was about 20 people. It was one of the 6 meetings in the whole of Europe, and we knew everyone. So when anyone died, we all buried them, just to make it look like they had a few friends. You know, this meeting was about that big. Not about that big. And if someone didn't turn up, 5 of us would phone or go around the house and go, where the fuck are you? We need help. We've got a new guy. You'd help him. And it was tricky. And I was able to instill and pass that to Denmark, one of my sponsees over here, to Sweden, to Robert, to Monica, to Karen down in Amsterdam, and share my experience about doing this stuff. When you fuck up, you will learn so much. Practice fucking up, make mistakes, break traditions, collapse, be in pain. So I said, are you mad? I went, nope, I'm now 18 years sober. Just fucking do this stuff, you know. No pain, no gain. We don't make this up. This is real. Until you lose a wife, until you lose a child. You know, anyone can stay sober. Billy used to say, anyone can stay sober. Are you a fucking fool? Right. He said, this is not a stopping disease. This is a don't start disease. If you don't start that shit, you don't have to stop. And I thought, yeah, that never occurred to me. You know when you're smoking crack, it never occurs to you, do you? Oh, I could stop this. I always think I'd like some more, but never I'd like to stop it. I never thought I'd like to start smoking crack. It'll be good for my health. Ever. Anyway, so I come to CA, and I spend about €30 on tea and biscuits for 1 week, for one meeting. And this guy was visiting from LA, and he went, I heard you like it. He said, you all share by mobile phone. I went, yeah. Would you like me to phone your ambulance before I chin you or what? You know. And they think we're different, but we're all the same. It's just that it appealed to me. It had cocaine before the word anonymous. And I thought, I like the sound of that. And I never left. I don't keep coming back. I never got anywhere. I meet people and they go, hello, Nicholas, how you doing? I go, no, I haven't slept with you. No, wasn't married to you. That's fantastic, I said. And who are you? Remind me. I meet so many people. He said, oh, I'm Jezebel. I met you 28 years ago. I said, that's fantastic, Jezebel. And how are you doing? He said, well, I'm 3 hours back. Get a lot of that. And of course, you get all the people that don't come and tell you they're back because they're dead. They didn't make it. They're not having step 2 today. They're in the madness. So completely sober, they decide to go out and have another go. That is the insanity right there, just there. Completely mad, you know. In step 1, it says, and I said I wouldn't tell you about the steps, but of course I will. Step 1, in the 12 by 12, it says, under the lash of alcoholism. It doesn't say I had a couple of sherries with my mum and I felt a bit bad. Under the lash of alcoholism. So under the lash, 17th century punishment, bitten out to sailors, tied to the mast, and if you were beaten and you didn't die, you got a result. That sort of cocaine taking. Not 0.5 gram for Christmas and I'll save a couple of lines for Easter because my mum won't get offended. You know, if you're that, go home now. Because you just think that bald bloke's exaggerating. How could he possibly do more than 0.5 gram in an hour? Well, he can do that in a minute, do you know what I mean? If you're on one. And going back to my progression. So I was forgiven for the tea. And I met this woman and she said, have you got any organic, Vedic, Himalayan tea made by naked monks or something? I mean, some old stuff. And I went, yeah, we got that. So I get the Nescafe out and just give her the coffee or whatever it is. And about halfway through the meeting, she interrupts the meeting. She went, oi, I've found the Nescafe jar. It's not fucking organic. I said, oh, right. I said, crack smoking whore yesterday, and now my body's a temple. She went, oh, right. And then I turned it around. I said, so you could make coffee with me, and then you could choose what you want. She went, what, you'd let me do that? And apparently, I was expressing love. I was trying to pull her in. So I got her attention. So there's lots of ways of getting attention of people. So I met everyone making tea. If you haven't got any friends, put your hand up for tea. And remember, smile at the bitches that say it's rubbish. Just keep making the tea. Because if they could make better tea, they'd be making the tea. I meet a lot of people complain. Experts can find goodness in anything. It takes an expert to do that. Any fool can complain. You'll notice I'm using the word expert and fool quite a lot. I'm fool most of the time, expert occasionally. And I'm not an expert at recovery. I just haven't died and I haven't used and I keep doing it. You know, I know a lot of people in this room. A lot of people. All the people that hear this, when it's recorded, I will know a lot of them. And I was talking to this young lady here, and they were having a little sort of, how many conventions? So this is my 128th convention. I have been to a lot of conventions. Now, I haven't spoken at all the conventions, but I've been to them. I've been there. One of my favourite posters is the John Lennon one. He's in the door and it just says, "You should have been there." Well, I was there. In 1994, when there were 6 meetings, when I met Jackie and Philip, her to-be husband, and all those boys, I was there. When he woke up out of a coma after a crash, looking like a fucking metal bridge, he thought he'd gone to heaven because I was at his bedside. He completely freaked him out. He said, "What the fuck are you doing here?" I said, "I sponsor you. I've come to see you. You're all right." You know, it's being there. It's not talking about being there, but being there. In psychobabble terms, it's holding space, just being there. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. You've got to practice. Anyway, back to the meeting. So eventually I became GSR, and I thought, oh, power. Quite like power. Someone talked about power. Lucy talked about power. So the GSR requires more time than the secretary. So all of you astute people will have worked out that the GSR has power. But only the power to carry the message of what the group desires. There is no personal power, it is shared power. A new concept for someone who smokes crack or takes cocaine or is egocentric. I had never thought of, someone else might be in charge. I might turn me into we. But that's what the first step is. We admit. Not I fucking took charge, we admit. So when someone says, "Do you sponsees?" I went, no, they're supposed to admit. They phoned me. You know, this guy I met, I don't know, 20 years ago or something like that. So it was only 10 years. Only 10 years. But it was only 10 years. The first 10 are quite difficult, by the way. So if you're under 10 years, you've still got some shit to put up with. And the next 10 years are quite tricky too. And then, of course, as you get the last, in my decade, because you know what the right thing is. You know what the truth is. You've done some step work by now, because if you're here for 30 years and you haven't done any step work, you got sparks coming out your ass. I've never met a real addict that can survive without doing the steps. Even just a basic version. And you go to these meetings, right? And my sponsor then was called Jim. Now, I like Jim. He don't take cocaine once. He was a complete nutter. He used to walk around with salukis, these elegant dogs, and Russian newspapers. A, he hated dogs. B, he didn't speak Russian. And he was supposed to be fucking 20 years sober. I love it. It's just like crazy shit. And I just thought, I'm going to ask this man. He's my sort of fool. Anyway, Jim had wise words. He said, I think we should do some H&I together. I know you're in CA. He used to call it C&A, because that's a Dutch company. He said, why don't we do some prison work? Oh, that's fantastic. So we went to this prison, right? And he said, well, I've been here before, so I'm going that way, and you're going that way with that man. I thought, yeah, all right. So we went this way, and they went through this locked door, and they slammed it, and went, prove. He went, it's not making tea in Chelsea, mate. Jim had talked to him, obviously. And then we went across this square, and there were dogs. And he started walking faster, and I started running. He said, dog doesn't know what step you're on. Don't run, or it'll bite you. I thought, bloody hell. Got to the last thing, and he said, yeah, not making tea in Chelsea, is it, mate? This is prison. Behave. Anyway, I see Jim, and I see this cell. 3 blue books. The Quran, the Bible, and the big book. Jim says, which book are you talking about? I said, last one. He said, correct answer. He said, I have to go now. So I get locked in this cell. My name's Jimmy, and I killed my mother in a drunken fit of rage. My name's Dad. I killed my mother, the 2 dogs, both the children, and ran over a school group. My name, and everyone had killed someone apart from me. So they were murdering alcoholics. Hello, Nicholas, you're new. Would you like some tea? We've saved up a tea bag for you. The humility shown by these men. We only get a few tea bags, and we were told you drink tea. Would you like us to make tea? Please, can we make tea for you? And thank you for coming. So if you haven't been to prison and helped someone, why not? Why not? That would be a question you might like to consider when you go to bed tonight. Oh, the bald man said, why haven't I been to prison yet? He didn't tell me I was a slag. He just asked me why I hadn't been to prison. Think about it. They can't go to meetings. They ain't coming. Anyway, this guy shared that he'd killed his family in blackout and he'd been given life forever, throw the key away. And he finally got a parole date. This is in 94 of 2025. And when he comes out, I'm going to meet him. I'm going to go and find him and tell him he's very brave. Because that could have been any of us. A couple of hits too much on the pipe, bit of vodka in a car, and you wipe out an entire family, and they put you in jail, and you think, I didn't even remember doing it. Yeah, but you did it. See, all the problems of our own making, says it in the book, our own making, not my mum's, not my dad's, not the beatings, not the people calling my dad a bastard. Me, I did it. Would you like some of this? Yes. Could I have some more? Could you front it and I'll pay you on Tuesday? I was never going to pay him on Tuesday, and they were never going to front me it, but, I'd always ask, and occasionally some idiot would give you it. Take a spoonful out of this bag, gone, with bag and spoon. Didn't return the bag or the spoon. But, that's what I'm like. But Cocaine Anonymous has done for me what I can't do for myself. We always think God will do for me, but sometimes Cocaine Anonymous will do for you what you can't do for yourself. It will teach you things. It will teach you tricks, how to stay sober. I just spoke to my great friend Nick T at the back, and we're thinking of doing a workshop, a serious workshop, on all the good shit that isn't in the book, but actually works. From being sober and experienced, there is other stuff, Like, I get a newcomer, and he's 60 days, and he comes up and he says, how you doing, mate? You should have done this. And I go, so, what's it like when you buy your children Christmas presents? He goes, well, I'm only 6 months. I went, well, probably better to be quiet about that then, just for the moment. But I remember, that's me. When Billy told me to be quiet, that's me. We just repeat ourselves all the time. So all you have to do is eat your soup, wash your bowl. That's all you have to do, but in spiritual terms. So I'm now talking about things that are not in the book, but I see this man nodding and other people. You know what I'm talking about. What have I learned in 30 years? This is all about love. It's all about being kind to myself first. Make sure I'm in order, and then to give it. That the sooner you apologize and make an amend, the easier your life will be. If you're not sponsoring a few people, if you're not putting your hand in the pot, I would not dare insult Cocaine Anonymous and put the same amount of money as I did in 1994. Because I've grown up with Cocaine Anonymous. My friend Sean from New York says, everything I own has Cocaine Anonymous stamped on it. I believe that. I believe it. Help. So I was in a church, and I met this verger. So she's someone who helps the priest. And a man came in with a dog, and she said, we don't have dogs in church. So I said, doesn't Jesus like dogs? She went, well, I don't know about that. She said, but I'm in charge. I thought, oh, thank God for that, because I thought I was for 20 years. But apparently she's in charge. And Jeremy went home. He didn't come back to meetings, and he died. That's nobody's fault. She was doing the best they can. But church is something invented so we don't go mad, whereas God is a reality. A famous group, talk about God doesn't even go to church. You see, we are the church. If God is everything or God is nothing, We are everything, so we are the church of God. We are actually part of God. We are all related, even to the people you don't like. And this always works. I love closing like this. So, there's someone in this room that's been giving you a hard time, or you don't really like, or they're a bit overweight, or you shout at them, or they didn't give you sex last night, or whatever. You're just a bit pissed off. Go up to them when I stop speaking and hug them and go, it's all right. Freaks people out. Because they think, what have I done? What have I done? See? When Bill writes, he says, I went to the meeting and the ladies downstairs were making tea and donuts. We did this most nights. Occasionally new people would come. There were 7 or 8 of us. We had some spiritual pamphlets. We didn't know what we were doing, but we prayed on our hands and knees and we tried our best. If all you do today is pray on your hands and knees and try your best, you're a fucking miracle. Because that's all I do some days. I don't want to be an addict today. I don't like all this shit. I've got to do more step work, and those fucking newcomers are going to phone up again. They're going to drive me nuts. And then I remember it's me. I am new. Compared to my sponsor, who's nearly 40 years, I'm the new kid on the block. I go to this thing called the old timers, and there's 3 of us, and we're 100 years, right? I'm the new bloke. I know my place. I'm the new bloke. I have more to learn and further to go. And this is a classic. This is like the scene in Bambi when it gets shot. This is like really cool. It's right, it's not that sad, but it's cool. So it's the best thing that someone ever said to me, ever in recovery. This is Billy, my first sponsor. So he said, Nicholas, come to my house, in a Glaswegian accent. I'm not even going to pretend to go there. And he said, I have decided that I like you. And he said, and it's come to my attention that you're probably going to go very far. And I'm like, and he said, because you've got so far to go. Thank you very much.